ムーンと JP はたはたチャンネル。
Now, the time depends on the time. The second installment of Trump's colonialism series with the face of peace. It's the Trump administration's position in post-war deaths. The material you shared this time, this is the slogan of former President Trump's diplomacy, especially America First. This is after World War II. In the great current of the international order, what the hell does it mean? You're trying to read it deeply. More pragmatic compared to conventional partnerships. It's an efficient deal. Attitude to engage in this. Why was it born? What it says. Let's take a look together. First of all, I think it's interesting. The Trump administration's diplomacy is kind of a traditional Republican. It's different from hawks like the Reagan administration, for example. Rather, as pointed out in the materials, European. Consider backing the populist movements like Germany's AfD. The rest is like Russian President Putin. I really appeal to my personal relationship with my experienced mentor. How are you analyzing this?
I believe this is a crucial aspect to consider. According to the materials, America first, and for example Russia first, such a way of thinking, we observe shared policy elements complemented by analysis for deeper insights. To elaborate, international rules or something. Additionally, we refer to universal principles such as freedom and human rights. First of all, my own country, direct national interest, notably, changes in the status quo through force. If you are willing, the point is to prioritize that attitude. Even to allies, rather than just a partner. If you want security, please pay the cost properly. That's a pretty direct request.
I see.
The relationship itself, it's not about philosophy or long-term trust. Short-term gains and losses. I see it as an emotion, a deal. If this is characteristic, past administrations have also called for increased burdens on allies. Isn't the way we view the relationship at its root a little different? It is emphasized that...
I see. Relacional. The quality has changed. So why is this diplomatic stance at this timing? Did it suddenly come to the front? The background in the material. It's based on history after World War II, yes.
When World War II ended, the United States was already literally overwhelming in economic and military power. So, with that power in the background, he led the rebuilding of the world order. International economic systems like the IMF and the World Bank, then military alliances like NATO and the Japan-US Security Council, these are simply amelie. Not only does it show the power of strength, like it used to be, blatant between great powers, turfwas, bloc economies, that kind of confrontation. In other words, in order not to repeat a catastrophic war, so to speak, it was aimed at a rules-based cooperative system.
Of course, there was the Cold War aspect. That, at least within the Western alliance, they tried to achieve stability with some common values and precision.
The order underpinned by American leadership. But it means it's no longer a late drink.
That's right. A turning point that is often cited is the change from the end of the 1960s, the Vietnam War. That drained our national power like this.
It's become a quagmire.
And economically, that one in one Nixon shock.
Yes, which one is given?
Indeed, unilaterally suspended the magistrate of dollars and gold. This began to shake that absolute superiority of the American economy. It was a symbolic event. After that, the hollowing out of domestic industry, also twin deficits, trade deficit and budget deficit. This becomes chronic, even in the United States, the world's police force, to take on all the roles of the World's Bank. It's getting a little difficult. So actually, from around the Reagan administration, the so-called burden, imploring allies to bear the weight of the responsibilities. It's burden sharing. This voice was gradually getting stronger.
Oh, I see.
That is the Trump administration's America First and deal-oriented means. Before the flow of burden requests, can you possibly perceive it as a broader extension?
Well, the analysis of the materials has gone a little deeper. In place of merely intensifying the burden requirement, I think this is a manifestation of more structural change.
Structural changes.
This used to be like the era of imperialism. Some people see us returning to a struggle for supremacy based on power. The material illustrates quite the opposite interpretation. In other words, it is clear that the United States can no longer support the international order alone. The relative decline of American influence, so to speak, well, let's just say it's a downfall. I think it's an honest reflection.
Manifestation of pain. Is it? That's an alternative perspective from traditional wisdom. Yeah.
That JD once, who also became a vice presidential candidate, he said that the era when the United States had undisputed dominance in the world is over. It truly symbolizes that recognition, Sai.
I see.
That's why we shout our country first. Even alliances are measured by profit and loss accounts. Push forward with that deal diplomacy. It is an absolute earthquake like it used to be, and the world with power, rather than a strategy of leading. As influence gradually starts to decline, a kind of question about how to maximize the national interests of the United States. Realistique. Or this strategy can be described as somewhat bitter. That's how it is.
I understand.
In the materials, in the first term of the Trump administration, what attitude did South Korea take towards the United States? That change is also... It was mentioned a little as an example of how allies responded to these changes in the United States. In other words, the allies also... Expectations for America. I guess we're having no choice but to reconsider the premise of relationships.
I see.
It's not simply about Mr. Trump's individual butler or his specific character. There's more depth to it. The American-centered international order that has been the foundation since the end of the war. The system itself is already... It's shaking a lot. That it is changing. That's evidence.
The pioneering message of this material is visible when examined within its broader, deeper, contextual framework. This is the very framework of alliances and international cooperation that the United States has painstakingly built. It suggests that we may be facing a historical turning point. And here, what I want you to think about is, Shin, if this alliance, the post-war system called coordination, if the regime is really coming to an end, like Japan, precisely in that system, peace and prosperity, a country that has enjoyed, in a sense, in a world that will become increasingly uncertain, the question is, what kind of consideration should we choose?
If you're interested, be sure to visit the main part of the article. Thank you for your high rating and subscribing to the channel.